Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm really glad you're here. Tonight, we're talking about something that almost everybody wants, but very few people know how to create deliberately. Not success, not productivity, not even motivation. We're talking about fulfillment. And I want to start with a simple question. Have you ever reached something you thought would finally make you feel complete? And then, after a few days or a few weeks, the feeling faded. Maybe it was a goal. Maybe it was money. Maybe it was recognition. Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was finally getting your life together. And for a moment, you felt relief. Maybe even excitement. But deep down, the feeling didn't stay. If you ever experienced that, then tonight is for you. I'm going to click through some slides, change things up a little bit, because what I'm going to show you is this. Fulfillment is not something that happens after you get everything right. It's not something waiting at the end of your to-do list. And it's not reserved for people who are more disciplined, more spiritual, more healed, more successful than you. There is actually a mechanism behind fulfillment. There is a pattern to it. And once you understand that pattern, you stop chasing your life and you start living it from a completely different place. So whether you're here because you feel stuck, disconnected, restless, exhausted, successful but empty, or simply ready for something deeper, you're in the right room. Tonight is going to be practical. It's going to be honest. And yes, by the end, I'm also going to invite you into something live and powerful happening in Cape Town on the 27th and 28th of June. But this is important. This is not one of those webinars where you wait 50 minutes just to be pitched. My intention tonight is to genuinely serve you. So by the end of the session, you're going to understand why goals alone don't create fulfillment. What actually creates a deep sense of meaning and wholeness? The biggest mistake people make when trying to fix their inner life. How to start building fulfillment now, not someday. And if it resonates, what the next step looks like in a live environment where the work gets much, much deeper. So settle in, have a notebook ready somewhere nearby, and let's begin. Before we get into tonight's content, what I want to do is take a few minutes to tell you who I am and why I believe I'm qualified to have this conversation with you. Not to impress you, but because if you've never met me before, and many people on here wouldn't have met me, you deserve to know who is standing in front of you before you decide whether to give me the next hour of your life. So, here's my story. I started my career in financial services on the 1st of October, 2007, and I threw myself into it completely. I read every book. I attended every seminar. I invested more money into my own personal development than almost anyone I know. I became obsessed with success psychology, mindset, and peak performance. Not because someone told me to, but because I genuinely loved it. And do you know what? It worked. I won every accolade there was to win in the industry. I built a career that looked, from the outside, like everything a driven person could want. At the same time, I was competing at a very high level athletically. I played competitive hockey for Western Province, both indoor and outdoor, and I was achieving in the boardroom and on the field simultaneously. And then I transitioned into endurance sports. From a man who had never swum more than 25 meters in a pool, who hated running, who would have been a better hockey player if it didn't involve running, who had never owned a bike, I made a decision. I was going to complete an Ironman. Not one, not two, but eventually 4 full Ironman races amongst many halves. After years of consistent training, through everything life threw at me, before, during, and after COVID, And then 2 weeks before my race in April 2020, after 6 years of preparation, after the fittest period of my entire life, the race was cancelled. 2 weeks out, after all that training, gone. Now, here's what I want you to understand about that moment. I had already completed 3 full Ironman races. I knew what the finish line felt like. I knew what the medal felt like. I knew what the celebration felt like. And somewhere in those 6 years of training, somewhere along the journey of becoming someone who could do something I was never supposed to do, I had already learned the most important lesson. The medal was never the point. The point was who I had become. The point was the identity shift. The discipline built in the dark. The person I discovered I was capable of being when nobody was watching and there was no finish line in sight. When the race was cancelled, I was upset. Of course I was. But here's what's interesting. I wasn't broken because I'd already received the real gift. And that moment, being forced to sit with everything I'd become without the external validation of the results, that is when I truly began to understand fulfillment. Not as a destination, as a way of living. That journey eventually led me to Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, one of the most transformative experiences of my life. And what happened there changed everything. I stopped living on autopilot. I started living on purpose. I aligned my values consciously, not by accident. I broke out of my shell, out of my comfort zone. I became more courageous, more loving, more fully myself. And I realized this was what's missing in most high achievers. Not more strategy, not more discipline, not more goals, alignment, identity, truth, fulfillment. The seminar you'll hear about tonight, Enriching Lives, Fulfilling Dreams, is built on the same foundation. It is the work that changed my life, brought into a live room for you. Now, professionally, I hold 3 postgrad qualifications. I've been a certified financial planner for 18 years. I've spent nearly 2 decades in financial services. And in that time, I've coached and mentored hundreds of financial advisors, entrepreneurs, sales professionals, and business owners across South Africa. People come to me when they know something is missing, when they're achieving but not fulfilled, when they're successful on paper but restless inside, when they sense there's another level, not just in results, but in how they actually feel about their life. And here's what people tell me consistently after we do the work together. I can never go back to seeing the world through the lens I used to. That's not me being arrogant. That's the power of the work. When you align your values on purpose, when you understand what is actually driving your decisions, when you break free from the conditions that have been running your life from the background, you see differently, you choose differently, and you live differently. And I've seen over and over again that when people lean into the work, their world opens up, opportunities appear, relationships deepen, confidence grows, clarity arrives. And when people resist, when they go back to autopilot, the old patterns return. I'm not a guru. I don't have all the answers. I'm a fellow traveler who has done the work, lived the lessons, and dedicated my life to helping others access what I've been fortunate enough to find. If I can shift something for just one person tonight, if I can open one door, crack one lens, plant one seed that changes how you see yourself and your life, then tonight will have been worth everything possible. So thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting me with your time. Now, let's get into it. Before I teach anything, I want to speak directly to the person I believe is in this room tonight. You may be someone who is functioning well on the outside, but something feels off on the inside. People might look at your life and think, they're doing well, but your inner experience is different. You might be achieving, but not enjoying, busy, but not really connected, driven, but tired, clear on what you should do, but unclear on why you still feel empty. Constantly setting goals, hitting some of them, and still feeling like something is missing. Or maybe you've done a lot of work on yourself already. You've read the books, listened to the podcasts, watched the videos, tried journaling, affirmations, routines, mindset work, gratitude practices, and some of it helped. But the deeper question is there. Why do I still not feel fully fulfilled? If that's you, I want to say this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not failing at life. And you're not too late. What's usually happening is much simpler than people realize. You've been taught to build a life around achievement, but not around alignment. You've been taught to chase outcomes, but not understand inner congruence. You've been taught how to perform, but not how to feel fully alive. And that gap, the gap between external progress and internal fulfillment, is exactly what we're going to close tonight. So, if you've ever felt like I should be happier than I am, I've done so much, why do I still feel this way? I'm tired of chasing the next thing. I want more depth, more peace, more purpose. Or I don't just want a successful life. I want a meaningful one. Then stay with me, because tonight may help you put language to something you felt for a very, very long time. Let's talk about one of the biggest misunderstandings in personal growth. People think fulfillment is the reward for achievement. They think when I hit the goal, then I will feel whole. When I fix myself, then I will feel peaceful. When I earn more, heal more, prove more, accomplish more, then I will feel fulfilled. And of course, goals matter. I'm not an anti-goal person. Goals can be beautiful. Goals can give you direction. Goals can stretch us, focus us, energize us. But goals are not fulfillment. At best, goals can create a momentary emotional high. They can create relief. They can create validation. They can create proof. But unless the person pursuing the goal is internally connected, aligned, and awake, what actually matters, the fulfillment doesn't last, because fulfillment is not created by the goal itself. Fulfillment is created by who you become while moving towards it. How congruent your life feels, whether your actions match your values, whether you're connected to meaning, whether your inner world and your outer world life are in relationship with each other. This is why two people can achieve the exact same thing, and one feels deeply grateful and alive, while the other feels numb 5 minutes later. The external event is the same. The internal relationship is very different. And this is also why people often live in one of these cycles. The chase. I need the next thing. So they push, they strive, they sacrifice themselves, they override their truth, they live in tension, and maybe they get the results. But then the nervous system settles, the excitement wears off, and the emptiness returns. Cycle 2, the delay. I'll let myself feel fulfilled later. Later when things calm down. Later when the kids are older. later when money is better, later when I've healed enough, later when I'm less messy, when I finally become the version of me I think I should be. And this creates a life of fulfillment. Well, this creates a life where fulfillment is always one chapter ahead. I know the cycle personally. I was always the youngest at hockey, youngest in the office. And because of that, I always thought I have time, plenty of it. But here's what nobody tells you when you're young. You're never going to be as young as you are right now. Time doesn't wait. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't give you a warning. I blinked and 18 years went by. 18 years. And I still feel like I'm 18 years old. Although, I will say, after running the Cape Town Marathon on Sunday, my body had a very different opinion about that. Now, don't delay your life waiting for the right moment. The right moment is always now. Then cycle 3, the self-improvement trap. I just need to fix myself more. So every uncomfortable feeling becomes another project. Every moment of dissatisfaction becomes evidence that something is wrong. And instead of living, people end up endlessly working on themselves without ever actually being themselves. That is absolutely exhausting. And it keeps fulfillment just out of reach. So the real issue is not that people don't have enough goals. The real issue is that they've confused movement with meaning. And when you confuse movement with meaning, you can spend years being busy, but not deeply nourished by your own life. So let's get into the heart of tonight, the core mechanism. Here is the idea I want you to really take in. Fulfillment is created when your life becomes congruent with what matters most to you, and when you are present enough to experience that congruence. I'm going to say that again. Fulfillment is created when your life becomes congruent with what matters most to you, and when you are present enough to experience that congruence. There are two parts there, congruence and presence. Congruence means your life matters and it matches your truth. It means what you say matters, and it actually matters in how you live. What you value is reflected in your calendar, in your decisions, your relationships, and in your energy. You're not constantly betraying yourself to maintain an image, a pace, or an expectation. If you say you value peace, but your whole life is built around pressure, you'll feel the fracture. If you say you value connection, but you're emotionally unavailable to yourself and everyone around you, you feel that fracture. If you say you value freedom, but every decision is driven by fear of other people's opinions, you will feel that fraction. And that fraction feels like emptiness. It feels like disconnection. It feels like something is missing. Often what's missing is not more achievement. Often what's missing is integrity with yourself. And that leads me on to presence. Even if your life starts to become more aligned, you still need the capacity to actually experience it. Because many people are so mentally elsewhere that they miss their own lives. They are in the future. They are in comparison. They are in performance. They're in regret. They are constantly self-evaluating. So even beautiful moments pass through them without landing. Presence is what allows life to register. Presence is what allows meaning to be felt. Presence is what turns a life from something you manage into something you actually inhabit. So fulfillment is not about changing your circumstances. It's not about changing your relationship. It's about changing your relationship with your life. A simpler way to understand it. You could think of fulfillment as a meeting point of three things: truth, alignment, and awareness. Truth, what actually matters to me? Alignment, am I living in a way that reflects that? And awareness, am I here enough to actually feel it? When those three come together, fulfillment starts to emerge. Not perfectly, not all at once, but genuinely. And when they don't come together, people tend to compensate. They compensate with more goals, more distractions, more numbing, more performance, more busyness, more external proof. Not because they're weak, but because they're trying to fill an inner gap from the outside. And that never works for long. Let me make this real. Let's talk about the first profile, the high achiever. So the first example, someone sets a major goal. They work hard, they stay focused, they achieve it, and everybody celebrates them. It's amazing. But inside, they feel flat. Why? Because the goal was never actually connected to their deeper truth. It was connected to proving something, to being enough, to being seen, to finally feeling worthy. So when they achieve it, they get the result, but not the inner resolution they were secretly hoping for. Because no goal can permanently solve an identity wound. I've seen this time and time again. Because I've spent nearly 2 decades helping people become high achievers, that's generally what I do. But here's the pattern I keep seeing. Many of them get there. They get to the goal, to the milestone, to the results. They work so hard for, and it doesn't feel the way they thought it would. And then I sit with them and we go deep. We do the deep work together. The same truth comes up almost every single time. They were never achieving for themselves. Their goals came from lack, from a need to prove something, from a wound that whispered, "You are not enough." And they spent years, sometimes decades, trying to silence that whisper with achievement. But no achievement can heal that wound. Only truth can. Then we have the next example, the caring person who's quietly empty. This person gives a lot. They support people. They show up. They're responsible. They carry so much caring for people. But they feel resentful, drained, and unseen. Why? Because from the outside, they look loving. But internally, they are disconnected from themselves. They're available to everyone, except their own truth. So again, the issue is not that they're not doing enough. The issue is a lack of congruence. Because of the nature of what I do, I'm often around people who want to give, who want to add value, who show up for everyone around them. And from the outside, it looks beautiful. But so often when I look closer, they're giving from the wrong place. Not because that's who they are truly, but because that's who they think they need to be. They're confusing their role with their identity. And underneath all that giving, there's something and someone who hasn't been asked in a very long time. What do you actually need? Then the third example, the person waiting to feel better before they live. This person says, once I'm more confident, then I'll really show up. Once I'm more healed, then I'll go for what I want. Once I stop doubting myself, then I will really come alive and live. But life keeps moving, and fulfillment keeps getting postponed. Because fulfillment doesn't come from waiting until you're perfect. It comes from becoming more honest, more present, and more aligned. Example 4, the restless goal setter. We love goals and we love to set them, but this person always needs a new target. As soon as they reach one, they need the next thing. And again, goals themselves are not the problem. The question is, what is the energy underneath the goal? Is it expression? Is the goal coming from growth, from contribution, from joy? Or is it an escape? Is it validation? Is it coming from fear? A need to outrun your own emptiness? This changes absolutely everything. Because one path leads to expansion, the other leads to exhaustion. So when people say, why don't I feel fulfilled? Often the better question is, where am I out of alignment with myself? Where am I living from conditioning instead of from truth? Where am I asking achievement to do the work that only inner congruency can do? That's where the real shift actually begins. I'm going to talk through a few belief shifts that are so important for anyone that's wanting to try and grow their level of fulfillment. Now, I want to help you make a few belief shifts, because if these don't change, the old cycles continue. So the first one, the first belief shift: fulfillment is not a reward. It is a way of living. Most people treat fulfillment like a prize all the way at the end. But fulfillment is not something life hands you once you've suffered enough or achieved enough. It is something you build through the way you live, choose, relate, and what you pay attention to. I've learned this the hard way through Ironman. For a long time, I operated under the belief, no pain, no gain. Training was supposed to be hard. I was supposed to suffer. I was supposed to hate every moment until I crossed the finish line. And so I spent years, long, brutal hours in a completely disempowered state, miserable on the bike, counting down kilometers on the run, enduring instead of living. And then one day something shifted. I realized I'm wasting my life waiting for the finish line. Because here's the truth about Ironman and about life. Things go wrong, especially on a race that long. And life is a long race, and things will go wrong. And if you've been surviving instead of living the whole way, when something breaks, you have nothing left. But when you learn to find meaning in the journey itself, in the early morning training, in the discomfort, in the person you're becoming along the way, nothing can take that from you. Not a canceled race, not a flat tire, not one bad kilometer. The finish line is never the point. Who you become on the way there, that is the point. It just took me some time and a lot of maturing to actually believe that. Then on to the next belief, belief shift 2. You do not need to abandon ambition to be fulfilled. Sometimes people think the answer is to stop wanting things. That's not what I'm saying. Desire is not the enemy. Ambition is not the enemy. Vision is not the enemy. The key is this. Write this down. Are your goals coming from wholeness, or are your goals coming from lack? A fulfilled person can still be deeply, deeply ambitious, but their ambition is no longer trying to rescue them. It becomes an expression of life, not a substitute of life. Then, if we look at the next one, belief shift number 3. More awareness is not enough without courageous action. A lot of people already know what's true for them. They know they're tired. They know they've abandoned themselves. They know they're living too fast. They know they're saying yes when they actually mean no. They know they're chasing things that don't actually matter to them. The problem is not awareness. The problem is courage. Fulfillment requires honesty in action. Belief shift number 4. Small realignments create more fulfillment than big fantasies. A lot of the time people think in order to be truly fulfilled, they have to create something massive, something huge, go on this big journey and create this massive fantasy. People often imagine that fulfillment requires a dramatic life overhaul. Quit everything, move somewhere else, start over, and burn it all down. Sometimes big changes are needed, but more often, fulfillment begins in small acts of truth. One honest conversation, one clear boundary, one decision you stop delaying, 1 hour reclaiming, 1 hour reclaimed for what actually matters, 1 moment of presence instead of constant rushing, 1 shift from performance into authenticity. These small acts begin restoring trust within yourself. And self-trust is a huge part of fulfillment. The last belief shift 5, you're allowed to want a deeply meaningful life. That may sound obvious, but many people secretly minimize what they want. They tell themselves, I should just be grateful. Maybe I'm asking too much. Maybe fulfillment is unrealistic. Maybe adulthood is just this way. No, you are allowed to want a life that feels meaningful. You are allowed to want depth, joy, peace, truth, connection, and purpose. You're allowed to stop settling for a life that only looks right on paper. That desire is not selfish. It's intelligence. So, how do we start building fulfillment now? What I want to do is I want to start getting a little bit practical. If you want to begin moving from goals to fulfillment, here are some foundational steps. But before I give you the steps, I want you to actually do something right now. Not just listen, actually do. Get your notebook out, your cell phone, a piece of paper, or whatever you have nearby. I want you to write down the answer to this question. Don't overthink it. Don't edit it yourself. Just write what comes first. What are the 3 moments in your life where you felt most alive? Not most successful, not most productive, not most impressive, most alive. Take 60 seconds. I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to let you write. So I want you to just write down a piece of paper and a notebook, cell phone, whatever you can. What are the 3 moments in your life where you felt the most alive? Go. Write them down, put them on a piece of paper, and maybe even take a couple of those and write it in the chat so we can see. Where do you feel most alive in your life? What's something that makes you alive? And being alive doesn't mean when you felt successful. It's not about being productive. It's not about impressing anyone else. When did you come alive? Write it down in the chat. Let's see. Now, look at what you wrote. Don't analyze it just yet. Just notice it. Because the common thread running through those 3 moments, that is a clue. That is your clue to what fulfillment actually looks and feels like for you specifically. Not my version, not society's version, yours. Hold that for a moment, because everything I'm about to share in the next steps is designed to help you build more of that, deliberately, consciously, on purpose. That's what we're here to do tonight. Step 1, I want you to identify what fulfillment actually means to you. Not what social media tells you, not what your family told you, not what success culture told you. So I want you to ask yourself, yes, what makes you feel more alive? What makes you feel the most alive? But I also want you to ask yourself, what kind of moments genuinely nourish you? What values do you want in your life? And what values do you want your life to actually reflect? Ask yourself, what am I changing? What am I chasing that I don't even truly want? Where in my life do I feel most like myself? And once again, I want you to write those down. Write down the answers to those questions. If you don't define fulfillment for yourself, you will unconsciously inherit someone else's version. Step 2, we need to find the biggest point of inner-outer misalignment. Look at your current life and ask, where am I saying one thing and I'm living another? Where am I performing instead of being honest? Where am I committed to appearance over truth? Where am I abandoning what matters most to me? Where am I over-functioning and under-feeling? Don't judge yourself. Just see it clearly. Awareness without shame is so, so powerful. And then step 3, choose one realignment action. Not 10, just one. One action that restores integrity. A few examples might be ending something you know is complete, having the conversation you've been avoiding, rebuilding a neglected practice that actually grounds you, creating space to think and feel again, saying no where you always say yes, recommitting to something that genuinely matters. The goal here is not dramatic performance. The goal is honest movement. Step 4, practice presence daily. Remember, fulfillment is not just alignment. It is also the ability to experience alignment. So you need to practice that return you to yourself. And that might be a couple of things. It might be the practice of quiet reflection, of journaling, walking without your phone. I mean, does anyone do that nowadays? But that's maybe what you need. Maybe it's intentional breathing, prayer, meditation, sitting with your own thoughts without distractions, asking yourself at the end of the day, did I actually live today? Or did I only manage today? Presence is not a luxury. It is part of the mechanism of fulfillment. And then step 5, we need to stop outsourcing your inner life to future outcomes. This is huge. Catch yourself when you say, I'll feel better when. I'll enjoy life once, whatever that is that needs to happen. I'll relax after. Then I will feel fulfilled. You need to interrupt that pattern. Come back to what is available to me now? What truth is asked to be lived right now? What matters now? This is how fulfillment begins, to move from theory to a lived experience. So people have a couple common mistakes that they make. I also want to save you some time by naming a few of these common mistakes. So the first mistake number 1, is about confusing intensity with depth. Some people are always chasing emotional highs, breakthroughs, dramatic moments. But fulfillment is often quieter than that. It's not always fireworks. Sometimes it's steadiness. Sometimes it's peace. Sometimes it's simply rightness. Don't miss what is real because it doesn't look dramatic enough. Mistake number 2, trying to think your way into fulfillment. Fulfillment is not purely intellectual. You can understand all the concepts and still feel disconnected. At some point, this work has to become embodied. It has to move from your head into your choices, your habits, your nervous system, your relationships, your way of being. I'm guilty of this one personally. For a long time, my default was intellect, logic, analysis. Someone would come to me with a problem and I would immediately go into my head. What's the logical solution here? What does the data say? What's the right answer? And sometimes it worked, but here's what I kept missing. People rarely know their own truth, and they almost never tell it to someone else straight away. The only way to truly connect with someone, the only way to really help them is to get out of your head and into your heart. Because your heart knows things your head will never be able to figure out. The moment I stopped trying to solve people and started trying to feel with people, everything changed. If you stay in your head, you will understand fulfillment intellectually, but you will never feel it. The head analyzes. The heart knows. Learn to trust both. Mistake number 3, waiting for certainty before taking action. You do not need total certainty to make an honest move. You need willingness. Many people delay alignment because they want a guarantee first. But clarity often comes through movement, not before it. Mistake number 4, making fulfillment another performance project. People hear this kind of conversation and immediately turn it into another self-improvement mission. I'm going to become the most aligned, present, fulfilled person ever. And now they're back in pressure. Please hear me. Fulfillment is not achieved through self-aggression. It grows through truth, gentleness, courage, and practice. Mistake number 5, trying to do deep transformation only from a distance. This matters. You can absolutely begin on your own. A webinar like this can open doors for you. Books can help, podcasts can help, reflection can help. But there comes a point where deeper shifts happen faster in the right environment. Live, focused, intentional, immersive. And that's actually why I'm so passionate about in-person work, because some things are understood intellectually online, but truly land when you are in the room, doing the work, feeling the energy, seeing yourself clearly, and moving through in real time. And that leads me to what I want to share with you next. Before I tell you about what's happening in Cape Town, I want to share something with you. I worked with someone not long ago who was in a very dark space, depressed, stuck, self-critical to the point of paralysis, not leaving the house, not believing anything was possible. From the outside, someone might have written this person off, but I could see something they couldn't see just yet. I could see who they were capable of becoming. And so I showed them, not by telling them what to do, but by believing in them before they believed in themselves. By reflecting back to them a version of themselves they have forgotten existed. And something shifted. They started taking action. Small actions at first, then bigger ones. They found a job. They rebuilt their confidence. They started showing up for their life again. Not because I did anything magical, but because sometimes the most powerful thing one human being can do for another is simply refuse to see them as small. That is what this work is. And that's what's waiting for you in Cape Town. So, if what I've shared tonight has resonated with you, then you probably already know this is not just information to you. This is an invitation. An invitation to stop postponing the deeper life you actually want. An invitation to stop living on the surface of yourself. An invitation to move from insight into embodiment. Because here's the truth. You can hear a powerful idea and feel inspired for a few days. But real change happens when you create space to go deeper than your normal patterns. And that's exactly why I created this live seminar experience. So let me tell you exactly what enriching lives, fulfilling dreams is. This is for the person who doesn't just want another inspirational conversation. This is for the person who's ready to actually shift. This is a 2-day live in-person seminar at Calvin Grove in Cape Town on the 27th and 28th of June. 2 full days with me personally in a room of people who are serious about the work. And here's what you will actually walk away with. You'll walk away with your own personal mission statement, written by you, for you, not a template, not someone else's words, yours. A clear declaration of who you are, what you stand for, and what your life is actually all about. You'll walk away with a personal life plan built around your values, your purpose, and your next chapter. A real relationship and a roadmap for the life you want to build. You'll walk away with clarity on the beliefs and conditions that have been running your life from the background and the tools to start rewriting them. You'll walk away with a deeper understanding of your own identity, not who you've had to be, but who you become and what that requires of you. You'll walk away with practical tools to make aligned decisions going forward so that every major choice in your life connects back to what actually matters to you. And you'll walk away having spent 2 full days in a room that gives you something most people never give themselves. The space to be completely honest about your life, without judgment, without performance, without pretending. This is what these 2 days are all about. Now, the investment to join us is 3,450 Rand. 3,450 Rand, let me put that in perspective for you. Most people in the room spend more than that every year on things that distract them from their own life. A weekend away, clothes they don't need, meals they won't remember, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. But when last did you spend that on yourself? Not on your business, not on your family, on you, on getting clear, on doing the inner work that changes everything else. That's what 3,450 Rand buys you here. Seats are limited. This is a live in-person event at a real venue with a specific capacity. So, if you want to be in the room on the 27th and 28th of June, go to craigyyates.com right now and secure your place. Don't think about it. Don't save it for later. Don't let this be another thing you meant to do. If tonight has spoken to you, if something in this conversation has landed, honor that. Go to craigyyates.com and register now, and I will see you in Cape Town. Let me leave you with this. Fulfillment is not found by becoming someone else. It's found by returning to what is true and building a life that honors it. Not someday, not after everything is fixed, not once you finally earn the right, now. Now, some people will immediately think, I'm busy. I understand that. The people this event is for are often very, very busy. But let me say this clearly. Being busy is not the same as being aligned. And sometimes the people who most need to stop are the people who least feel they have permission to. If your life is full, if your responsibilities are significant, if people rely on you, then doing the deeper work is not less important. It's actually more important. Because the cost of continuing disconnected gets carried into every area of your life. Some people will think, I can work through this on my own. Maybe you can. Maybe you can reflect on some of it on your own. Maybe you can journal on your own. Maybe you can think about your values and your identity on your own. But the question is, have you? And has it created the shift you actually want? Because there is a reason intentional environments matter. There is a reason stepping into a live room matters. The right room creates focus, honesty, momentum, and depth in a way that staying in your own usual environment often doesn't. Some people may be thinking, I'm not sure if this is for me, and that's fair. So let me simplify it. If you're hungry for more clarity, if you know there is a gap between your outer life and your inner life, if you want deeper alignment, if you are tired of surface level growth, if you sense that identity level work is the real work now, then yes, this is for you. And then there's a very common one. I'll think about this later. Let me challenge that with care. Later is where many important things go to die. Later becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And next thing, the moment has passed. If you already know this is relevant, delaying the decision really creates more clarity. Usually, it just creates distance. So, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your attention, your openness, and your willingness to look deeper. If you know you're meant to go further with this work, then join us live in Cape Town on the 27th and 28th of June at Enriching Lives, Fulfilling Dreams. Take the next step, reserve your place, come into the room. I'd love to work with you there. For me, that is pretty much a wrap. I'm happy that it's all done. And if you have any questions, I'll stay around for a few minutes. But otherwise, Have an amazing Wednesday night, and I look forward to chatting to you soon. Cheers.